Hey everybody, welcome to the Leader Lab. This is Leadership Shorts, quick thoughts to help you level up your leadership. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners, and I'm joined, as always, by my partner in podcasting in a post-lunch goofy episode, Emily Gray Steele.
I'm gonna start laughing.
Emily Gray
We're
Steele.
gonna work through it.
We're gonna power through. We got to get this done. What are we talking about today?
We work with a lot of people that get stuck in the trap of perfection.
Yes.
Us included sometimes.
Absolutely. Challenge coins, question mark.
And we know the saying, progress, not perfection. But how do we actually embrace that?
Yes. I think one of the things that I'm noticing over and over again as I work with people is they get stuck in this trap. And part of it is we have to understand we are actually in a trap. Mm-hmm. Like, why does perfection trap us? And I think one of the ways it traps us is it gives us permission to not do anything. Mm-hmm. Like, if we can't do it perfectly, do we actually have to do anything?
Right.
And it allows us to delay things that we're afraid of, because if we can't do it perfectly, we don't have to dive in and just get started and just get moving. And it's honestly, this idea of perfection it's a story. It's a thing that we have to like keep it a certain way or do it a certain way. And if we can't do that, what are we even doing?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And we can make choices based on perfection, not realizing it's costing us, versus just making progress, versus embracing the idea of progress.
You know, I just thought of, because a few weeks back we did an episode about resolutions.
Yes.
And I was thinking about, like, whenever we decide we're going to do something new, right? And I think that's part of that habit we get into, where we're like, oh, I'm going to start again tomorrow or Monday or next week or next year. Yeah. And I think that we do that because we want that perfect record, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's just another piece of it. It can be, you know, a task that you have or a project that you don't want to start because you're not going to do it perfectly. And then also, I think habits. That's a big reason why we don't do those.
You're probably right. I'm wondering how many people set a New Year's resolution and, boy, they nailed it to like January 18th. And then they missed a day. And then they missed another day. And it's like, well, I'm 2 days behind, you know? And they get back on track for a few more days and then they miss it again. And they're like, fine.
So that's just kind of like our reasoning for like having that fresh start so we can have a perfect record. Yeah. And I think that is really where that perfection trap gets us.
Yes. And I think part of it is going to be recognizing, am I operating in a perfection mode or a progress mode? And I think perfection mode has some real, like, there's symptoms. There's things you can notice, you know. One of them is procrastination. Yeah. If I'm really finding myself procrastinating something, it's good to ask the question, am I trying to get perfection? Is that the goal? Is that really what I'm after? I think one of the symptoms, weirdly enough, is shame. Because why do we stop with the resolutions? Well, I'm ashamed I wasn't perfect. You're almost never going to be perfect
over.
in anything.
You have to start over every time.
Exactly. And it's that shame will stop us from starting over, because what the shame says, you're going to start over and you're just going to fail again. And then you're going to feel like this again. Do you really want to go down that road? Are you really good enough to do that? And the shame is not doing anything for us. And I think if we can spot the procrastination and the shame, it's a sign we're in perfection. I think, and I don't know that it's exclusively a sign for perfection, but I think fear probably is as well. Yeah. If we find ourselves thinking about a project or a thing we're going to do or whatever it is, something we're going to try, and we're afraid of it. We're afraid. I would stop and ask myself, why am I afraid? Am I afraid it won't be perfect? Yeah. That's probably a sign that we're operating in that perfection mode.
Yeah, I do. I feel like we aren't always great at spotting our fear because we want to pretend that we're not afraid. Yes. I do think that's in that procrastination for me all the time. Yeah. If I'm avoiding something at all costs, I'm like, oh, I probably have something that's causing me to not like it, right? Yeah. So my anxiety is telling me this is not going to be good, and I have made up a billion reasons why, and probably only half of them are even possible.
Yes.
So that fear comes in.
And ultimately, if we're in perfection mode, it stops us from doing things that we actually want to do, or things that are actually good for us. Right. I think two examples of this, both involving books. One, you came in at the beginning of this week and you're like, I read an entire book in a weekend, which we were all celebrating. We were high-fiving about that, because ultimately, for a mom of two very young children, to read a book in a weekend is insane. That is so hard to do. You know how hard that is, right? Yes. But what piece of perfection did you have to let go of to create space for that?
Yeah, I like obsessively clean my house. It's like a coping mechanism
Yes.
for me. And so I was like, it's more important for me to have this time to like relax and rest.
Yes.
And so I just kind of set aside the house not being clean.
Yes. And my guess is not even not being clean, not being perfect.
Right.
Right. And so you were able to set aside this measure of perfection for a minute, for a weekend. And you had a great weekend, didn't you? Because you also told me about other things you got to get to do, spending time with Augie, helping him with his letters.
Yeah.
Like all these other amazing things because you're willing to let go of perfection.
Right.
And I think there's something there. And perfection stops us, I think, from doing and creating so many different things in our lives. And it's even as I'm wrestling through this process right now of writing a book, I've been experiencing this, and I found myself in a couple of moments of like, do I even want to do this? Because it's not going to be perfect. And there was this, I started to recognize that I wanted it to be perfect. And finally, you just have to start. You just have to say, you know what? Let's do something. Let's get something.
Yeah.
And every writing book you read, every writing thing you take in to help you be a better writer, every one of them says, just go. Just get it done. Anne Lamott, a very famous writer, she has a hilarious book about writing. She's a very, very funny writer. And she has what, I think it was Anne Lamott that originally coined this, and I've heard Brene Brown talk about it. You have to have your shitty first draft.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
This is the whole pancake thing. Just ditch the first pancake.
Listen, pancakes are impossible to make. You will never convince me otherwise. Pancakes should never be attempted again. Outside of pancakes, you got to have that first one, right?
Yeah.
You got it. And you're probably right about the pancakes. The first one's going to be bad. Throw it away.
Everyone can relate.
Let's keep going. Whether you're writing a book or making freaking pancakes, the first one's probably not going to be great. Just get it out. Get the words out of your head. Get them onto the page. And then start working with them. But if you never get them out of your head onto the page, and I think that's why everybody thinks they've got this great novel in them or this great book in them, but nobody ever writes them.
Yeah.
Is because they're so scared to just start.
Yeah.
Because what if it's not perfect? Well, what if it's not?
Yeah.
But what if you still have a book on a shelf with your name on it?
Yeah, and you started somewhere. Well, this is a design nerd thing, so hopefully there's a few other design nerds that can relate.
Oh,
but
man, it is such a great example.
That's what you do when you design things. A lot of times you can communicate all day long about what you want to create, but until you create something, like a draft to work from, that's when you can actually like get going and go to the next thing. So a lot of times I whip up that draft pretty quickly after we communicate so that we can then start from somewhere.
And interesting, it applies to design, it applies to creativity of all types, it applies to leadership, it applies to doing new things in your organizations.
Yeah.
If you are sitting there just trying to will this perfect thing into being, it's never going to happen. You just start with something. And so ultimately, if you recognize you're in perfection mode, and I think that's what we're trying to get to, if you see it, you see the fear, you see the procrastination, you kind of see these different things, you stop and go, okay, can I just take a step? What's that next step? Let's just take one step and let's see if that leads to another step and another step. And that, we had that episode a while back talking about forward momentum. Forward momentum ultimately is one foot in front of the other, right? It is, we just get moving. And if we don't ever move, we're just going to sit. And the things we want to build will never get built. And I think that's something I'm currently wrestling through. And I think a lot of us do. I think we get stuck in that perfection trap. Leaders, let's talk next steps. If you find yourself procrastinating, if you find yourself really afraid that it's not going to be perfect, you're stuck in perfection mode. And ultimately, you got to get into progress mode. You have to just start taking steps. Sometimes accountability is a good thing. Have people around you to push you and say, hey, how's that thing going? You committed to doing that. Are we making progress? We need to be focused more on progress than perfection. Get something moving. Get that first draft done. Get that first pancake done. If it wouldn't confuse people, we should probably name this something about the first pancake. But
people will get that.
I don't think they will get that. Nobody is going to click on that YouTube video. Get the first pancake on the pan. Get it going. Throw it away if you have to. Then make some more. You're only going to get good at the other ones if you make the first one. And so if you find yourself stuck in perfection, just get something going. Take that first step. All right. If people want to send us pancake recipes,
I just want them to tell me that they understand that joke. Apparently,
please email us.
lab@forwardpartners.net.
We've done this for a while, and for some reason, that's not my job. I don't need to know it. Email us at lab@forwardpartners.net, specifically Emily. Please tell her you know what that means. I didn't know what it meant the first time she told me, so here we are. If people want to send that to us, we know where to send it. If they want to find us online, where we're putting out all kinds of social media content and pancake recipes.
I'm gonna put pancake emojis everywhere.
Where do they find our pancake emojis?
At Forward Partner.
At Forward
It'll
Partner.
It'll be like an inside joke.
It'll be an inside joke. Nobody's going to get it except people that watch this episode. Welcome to the Pancake Patrol. All right. We're ending this one. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
We are there.
Thank you, Emily, for bringing the pancakes.
Thank you.
John, Pancake Productions Vineyard. Thank you, sir, for producing. Emily, thank you for being the vibes and quite frankly, being the most normal person in this room right now. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. We deeply appreciate you. Thank you for putting up with our shenanigans. We will see you next time right here in the Leader Lab for Leadership Shorts.